golf stage, not a goth stage.
Yeah, I got that page.
I have gotten them
familiar
confused.
with that.
Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, the Mavs and Timberwolves tip off. O'Neal Cruz hits 3 balls really hard. And PK Subban joins us to break down the Stanley Cup Conference Finals. But we begin today with Jaylen Brown hitting a 3 from the left corner with 5 seconds left last night to propel Boston into overtime, where they would beat Indiana 133 to 128. Indiana's Aaron Nesmith said afterwards, quote, "We gave it away. We should have won the game," unquote. Wilbon, how should the Pacers feel after game 1?
We gave it away. We should have won the game. That captures it. The same way I feel. They gave it away. They should have won the game. Now, I might take it a bit further and say, which they wouldn't, they have to feel we played with them. We outplayed them on their home court in game 1. We can win this series. I think they gave the series away because I just don't know that you recover even emotionally from something like that. Tony, it's fascinating to watch this game last night and watch it with Chris Paul, one of the great minds in modern basketball. And in real time watching the game, Chris Paul looks at Tyrese Halliburton playing defense, guarding the inbounds pass, and says, oh my God, he's in the wrong place. He needs to be shaded left. Meaning you can't leave the corner open to throw the ball to Jaylen Brown. So while most people are concentrating on whether you foul or not, and he catches the ball in shooting position, so you really can't foul him, you can't take the chance, and Siakam didn't. Seeing that, Tony, and I heard Jay Will this morning, people who do this for a living, players, veteran players, they know all their lives. There's certain things you have to do to guard that play. Halliburton playing in his first playoff game not his first playoff game, but his first playoff season, did not do that thing. And he made 2 other huge mistakes, ball handling mistakes. He's their most important player. And I feel for him because he's a guy I root for. But he made those mistakes. The team made all kinds of mistakes. They turned it over 21, 22 times. Yeah. Rick Carlisle said, put it on me. There's a bushel full of mistakes. They gave it away. They should be up 1-0 on a team that doesn't handle pressure well, that would have been under immediate pressure, the Celtics. Instead, they let them off the hook.
Yeah, I think it's a demoralizing loss. I'm sure Indiana will be ready for game 2. I'm sure they will say we have put game 1 behind us, and maybe they'll win game 2. Maybe they'll win game 2. But the combination of a very bad inbounds play by Indiana, of letting Jaylen Brown have that shot in the corner and then losing in overtime, that has to be nightmarish because they should have won the game and they did give the game away. And Mike, my first flash on this was to go back to the late, great Dennis Green when he was coaching Arizona and they lost to the Chicago Bears. And his quote at the lectern when he was slamming things around were, "They are who we thought they were, and we let them off the hook." Indiana made too many mistakes in a very short amount of time. They let the inbounds go in. They didn't switch. They didn't foul. Siakam had his hands down when Jaylen Brown made that shot. That's a great shot. I don't know that he makes it 2 out of 5. I don't even know if 1 out of 5, maybe he makes that. Here's what we know. We know this about Boston in the playoffs. They can get beat at home. They got beat at home in game 2 by Cleveland, beat at home in game 2 by Miami. The fact that they did not get beat in this one leads me to believe that they're going to win this series because they're 4-0 on the road. They close you out after you beat them. So maybe it'll happen a different way. Maybe Indiana will come back and be great, but I think it's demoralizing. I do.
I do too, Tone. How do you recover from that? And then they'll try. And they got a veteran coach who's been in all kinds of situations, and he will do the best he can to rally them. But, man, wow, what a swing. The Western Conference Finals begin tonight. The Mavericks face the Timberwolves in Minnesota. The Wolves won the season series 3-1, but lost the only game in which Kyrie Irving played. Tony Kendrick Perkins told us yesterday that he's picking the Wolves. Which way you lean?
Yeah, well, everybody knows who watches this show that I've been rooting for Minnesota in the playoffs. I did not think they'd get here. I really did not think that they would beat Denver in Game 7. I did not. And people also know that I'm going to hold off a little bit, be a little bit hesitant about the coronation of Anthony Edwards. But if he gets his team to the NBA Finals, I may be all in at that point. Now, what we know about Minnesota is they don't have to win at home. They just were 3-1 in Denver. So this game one may not mean as much to them as it would to another team. And having said all of this, I am leaning, if you make me, towards Dallas. It is 3-1. It is 3-1 during the season, Minnesota over Dallas. But as you said, Luka Doncic played in only 2 of those games. Kyrie Irving played in only 1. In the one that Doncic and Irving played together, they had 69 points combined, and they won that game. Look, my guy, I really like the veterans on Minnesota. I like Gobert. I like Conley. I like Towns. They're solid pros. They don't have the firepower that Doncic and Irving have. They don't.
Tony, they don't. And I'm so torn over this. I go back and forth. I'm going to go back to something really old and stodgy and out of date. Defense. I mean, I believe defense wins championships. And Dallas is sort of new to it. Kyrie Irving's been playing not good defense, great defense, probably the best of his career. Doncic has gotten interested in defense. Again, kudos to Jason Kidd, who played defense for the entire Hall of Fame career. He's gotten his team to do that. But that's Minnesota's calling card. They're comfortable doing that. They're going to revert to doing it. They reverted to it in Game 7 in Denver. And so while I'm split right down the middle, Tone, I'm going to take Minnesota. And okay. I'm gonna rely on that feeling of me and being around coaches. You know, you and I have covered a lot of great Hall of Fame coaches in our lives. And I think all of them at some point at the end of it would say, hey, wait a minute, this team is superior defensively. Minnesota is long and tough and physical. And it'll be interesting to see how Doncic deals with that, because he's not necessarily long, but he's tough and physical. So I'm gonna go Minnesota.
Either way, it's not going to be a surprise who wins. Indiana beating Boston would be a surprise.
That would be a surprise.
Because Boston has so many more wins and so much more playoff experience. This can go either way, and we don't know. It won't be a surprise. Let's move to a baseball story. Last night, Pirates shortstop O'Neill Cruz hit 3 balls faster than 115 miles an hour. 2 of them went faster than 120 miles an hour. His first player to ever do that. Yes, Wilbon, we're talking about exit velo, which admittedly is a relatively new thing. Here's the kicker. On the balls, Cruz hit over 120 miles an hour. Once he couldn't get to second. And on the other, the base runner couldn't score. So I ask you, was O'Neill Cruz's exit velo a big deal, a little deal, or no deal at all?
Not only is it no deal, it angers me. And in talking about this and thinking about it, and I'm glad we're doing this topic, Tony. So let me ask you something. The velo, the exit velo, does it mean he's a better hitter than Tony Gwynn, who might have dribbled the through the infield in his day and hit about 330 career and flirted with 400 once? Meaning a better hitter than him? And so what? So what? He's a 260 hitter. So why do I give a damn about the exit velo? I don't. Mm-hmm. And so I guess people need this, Tony, to become interested and more fascinated. And they go, oh, wow. Not only do I not go, oh, wow, it has started the ruination of watching sports for me. Numbers like this repeatedly and put up on the screen day in, day out. It has ruined it because people aren't concentrating on the fact that he is 260 instead of 330. They're concentrating on exit velo. That's just me. You're older than me and more crotchety than me, at least you used to be. How you feeling about this?
Yeah, I'm different than you about this. I appreciate numbers that are new to me. I don't swear by them, but I appreciate them. I don't think, as you do, that it's hocus pocus junk. For example, I see a direct correlation between swing speed and your distance off the tee. And I think everybody does. Rory McIlroy, his swing speed is greater than everybody else's, and he goes 300 plus on driver all the time. It's a little more nuanced for me with exit velo, because if it's truly exit velo, Mike, and the ball exits the park, and it's a home run, and they get runs, I don't care how fast it went out.
But he's only got 7.
He's only got 7. Yes, and if you tell me that it stays in the park and the guy can't go to second, then I don't really think that it's a great idea. But in general, I appreciate the numbers more than you do. And this guy not only hits it faster than anyone, he throws it faster than anyone. Remember last year I said he should be a pitcher when they said he was clocked at 98 miles an hour? There's him and Ellie De La Cruz from Cincinnati. They throw it faster than anybody. Anyway, it's a good story. Let's take a break. Coming up, do the Panthers or the Rangers have the edge in their series that starts tonight? We're going to ask PK Subban.
We'll also ask him whether he likes Connor McDavid and the Oilers to make it past the Stars. Tony, you know what number I like? The Bo Jackson number from first to third. I like that number.
Yeah.
You tell me that number.
Pardon the interruption is brought.
The Stanley Cup Conference Finals start tonight, which makes it a perfect time for a visit with a man who calls me corny, ESPN hockey analyst PK Subban, resplendent in purple. Resplendent. Let's start with this. The Panthers and the Rangers open tonight at Madison Square Garden, the world's most famous arena. Which player on each team do you key on the most?
Simple for me. For the Florida Panthers, for the Rangers, they got to key on Barkov. Barkov is the catalyst. And honestly, when he's on the ice, it's synergetic with their team. Everything runs through him. He does it on both sides of the puck. He's a Selke winner. I mean, this guy, speaking of Selke winners, Patrice Bergeron, perennial Selke winner. This guy's got more skills than Patrice Bergeron. Patrice Bergeron's done it longer and has done it consistently, but this guy's just as real. He's going to be a huge component that the Rangers are going to have to key on. And for the Rangers, it's Adam Fox. Fox maybe didn't have the best last series, but this guy is as smart as any player in the National Hockey League. And if he gets his game going in this series, it's going to be a huge problem for Florida. They got to be physical on him.
All right, even thinking of the Rangers moving on to a Stanley Cup final, not exactly something we see frequently, but PK, which way, Florida or the Rangers, are you leaning?
Well, I'm going with the Rangers. I believe, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid down here in New York. I believe that this team, after winning the President's Trophy, this is the most balanced team that I've seen. Coached by Peter Laviolette, I think he's done a phenomenal job managing this group, getting Jonathan Quick involved, resting Shesterkin for this exact moment all season. So I think they're prepared for this moment. But make no doubt about it, the first two games of this series are so important. If Florida Panthers can steal one of these games and get home ice, I think it's going to be huge because both teams cannot afford to start late in this series. Okay, forget the other series. Both teams cannot because of the goaltending situation. Shesterkin and Bobrovsky are too good. You ain't beating them 2 or 3 games in a row. I don't see that happening in this series. I expect this series to be very similar to the Vegas-Dallas series. Hand-to-hand combat, all-out war every single game, and I got this going 7 in the Rangers' favor. Second thing, on the road, last change is going to be super important. Matchups for the Rangers. They're going to have to match up against Barkov and Tkachuk. These two guys are important keys for Florida, so home ice is going to matter. So these first 2 games are everything, in my opinion.
All right, I need to steer this thing off of I-95 very quickly and go to the West and get some sage words from you about Edmonton and Dallas. All right, most of us looking in from the far outside are thinking, okay, Connor McDavid, it's Connor McDavid's time. Is he the kind of person, PK, who internalizes this stuff and worries over it and frets over it? Do you see this weighing on him, this notion of it's your time?
Well, if hockey fans can believe it, Connor McDavid is human. He is not a robot. We know that he makes everything look like a video game out on the ice the way he plays, but he is human. Of course, he's got to be thinking about it. His dream is just like the other 700 plus players that start every season is to win the Stanley Cup. So I would imagine that he thinks about it a lot, but I think there's more pressure on the Edmonton Oilers, less on Connor McDavid. Connor McDavid's probably the most skilled player to ever play this game. We know what he brings. Any team in this league would love to have Connor McDavid. So I think the pressure's on the Edmonton Oilers. Have you guys over the past 8 or 9 years put a good enough team around him to be able to win the big one, to get to the dance? I would have to say they haven't. That's just my opinion. But this year, you're in a conference final. All eyes are going to be on Connor McDavid. And I think there's another level or 2 levels to his game that we haven't seen yet in this playoffs. And he'll need it. He'll need everything against Dallas. I got Dallas winning the series. Whether you want to say 4, 5, 6, or 7 games, I have them coming out of this series. No question.
That's great. We appreciate awesome. that you actually make picks, because Wilbon and I just hem and haw all the time. Thank you, PK. Thank you so much.
Thanks, PK. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
Let's take one last break. Still to come, Detroit turned out the fans for this year's NFL draft. The NFL makes its choice of cities for 2026. Did they already choose in 2025? Did I miss it? What?
NASCAR hands out a fine for last Sunday night's fisticuffs, which I guess I missed.
In my
I'm
ear,
rooting
it
for
says
Edmonton.
Green Bay.
I
Green
want
Bay in
Edmonton.
2025 for the NFL. Of course you are. You
Yes,
want it
I
because
am.
it's a Canadian city, right? And it's far from I-95. But so
Well,
is that.
I would-
First birthday Tommy John. Not the underwear, not the operation, the real Tommy John, the pitcher. Of course, the operation was named after him because he had it first. In 1974, Dr. Frank Jobe performed the surgery, and John was back in the majors for the 1976 season after missing the 1975 season. John pitched 26 seasons in the majors for the Yankees, White Sox, Dodgers, Angels, Cleveland, and Oakland. His career record is 288 and 231 with a 3.34 ERA. He started 700 games, Wilbon.
Wow.
The surgery was so successful that John pitched 14 seasons after having it. He was a 4-time All-Star, 3 times after the surgery, was runner-up in the Cy Young in 1977 and 79, both after the surgery.
Tony, there were 2 pitchers I paid close attention to as a kid. Of course, Ferguson Jenkins. My dad is a White Sox fan. And Tommy John, as you mentioned, for the White Sox, about 1965 to 71, something like that. So Tommy John was there, got there to Chicago about the same time Ferguson Jenkins did. How cool to watch a left-hander or right-hander in Chicago, those 2 pitchers at that time. So I grew up thinking Tommy John was a White Sox.
He might have the most successful Tommy John surgery of anybody, and thousands seem
Yeah,
to have had
probably
it.
so.
Happy anniversary, LeBron James. On this day 15 years ago, with Cleveland trailing Orlando by 2 points with 1 second left in the game, LeBron hit a 3-pointer at the buzzer to tie the Eastern Conference Finals at 1-1. The Magic had been down by 23 points and drew ahead on a basket by Hedo Turkoglu. LeBron's shot was the first game-winning buzzer beater of his career. Cavaliers won 66 games that season. They were heavy favorites to beat Orlando, but the Magic won that series 4-2. LeBron played 1 more season in Cleveland before taking his talents to South Beach, where he won 2 titles, and then went back to Cleveland and won 1 there.
Tony, I would scream to the heavens to defend LeBron's right to go wherever the heck he wanted to go. But suppose a Northeast Ohio kid from Akron had stayed in Cleveland forever, the whole time, 20 years. How many titles might Cleveland have won? People talk about, oh, he had to leave because they weren't good enough. They won 66, people. Are you paying attention? I just wonder, how many championships does Cleveland have? How many banners if LeBron stays home?
I don't know. I don't think more than 4, though, which is what he's got now. I don't think
more.
So. I don't. Happy trails to last night's game for the Texas Rangers. The defending World Series champs ran into Ranger Suarez and the Phillies. So far this season, that's an unbeatable combination. Suarez struck out 10 over 7 innings. He upped his record to 9-0 as the Phillies won their 35th game. That's the most in baseball. They're on pace for 116 wins. Suarez lowered his ERA to 1.36. Became the first pitcher to start 9-0 with a sub-1.50 ERA since Juan Marichal in 1966. Suarez is also the first Phillies pitcher to win at least 9 consecutive starts since Robin Roberts in 1952.
Wow.
You may hate the Phillies,
Wow.
Wilbon. They're really good.
Well, Tony, you only hate teams that are really good or great, right? I mean, sports are better. Each league is better when you have somebody you can also root against. The Yankees aren't that team anymore. The Dodgers could be getting there, but the Phillies, they're good enough. They're loaded. Oh, I can hate them. I can hate Philly all summer easily, and they're worthy of it.
All right, you can hate them if you want. I don't.
Good,
I
I
like
do.
them. I like the city of Philadelphia.
Let's
Let's
got
go to
another
the big
team.
finish.
Root for your Nationals.
Lamar, I do root for them. I'm saying I like the Philadelphia city. Lamar Jackson says he lost weight to become more agile. Really? Your thoughts?
225 to 215 to 205. That just seems great if he was older. Like our age, you lose that kind of weight. But NASCAR fined Ricky Stenhouse Jr. $75 grand for fighting Kyle Busch Sunday. You okay with that?
I think that's a record for NASCAR on a fight. And they told his father he's banned indefinitely because he joined in the fight. He's banned. Pittsburgh will host the 2026 NFL Draft. Is that a good choice?
Sorry to Kansas City and Green Bay and a few other places, Buffalo, Chicago. But Pittsburgh is probably the best NFL city of all. Probably is, Tony. Best fan base. LA Kings lifted the interim tag from head coach Jim Hiller. Does that make sense?
Yeah, he got him into the playoffs. He did a good job. Last one, the Mercury beat the Aces by 10. You look dopey on this one. You had it the other way. You surprised?
I did, but Khalil
Ayuk today. I mean, same as I do about all these guys that aren't here. I mean, I wish they were here, but it's something that's part of the business. And anytime it's part the business part, you try to respect it, stay out of it as much as possible, and look forward to the days when we can just focus on football.
Senior NFL insider Adam Schefter joins us now. Schefter, what more can you add here, specifically with the situation with Ayuk and the 49ers?
Kevin, the two sides have been working to try to get done a long-term extension, but they've been unable to do that. In the interim, without there being an agreement, Brandon Ayuk has made the decision that he does not want to attend OTAs amidst those contract talks that have been ongoing between the two sides. Again, at some point in time, you have to think a deal is going to get done. And when it gets done, Brandon Ayuk will show back up again. It's May 22nd. It's not July 22nd. There's plenty of time for these two sides to work out a deal. But the wide receiver market has been going north. The prices on top wide receivers like Brandon Ayuk has only been increasing. He recognizes that. The 49ers are trying to come to grips with that, and they're trying to work out a price and a deal that so far has been elusive for both sides.
Timing is key here. You hear Schefter talk about it. It's May, not July. July, we get ready for training camps for much more and other notable players not at OTAs. Let's go to Hannah.
All right, Kevin. Well, Ayuk, one of just several of the league's top receivers not appearing at OTAs. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, all falling into that same category of receivers who are looking to get their extensions. Jefferson, Lamb, and Ayuk all ranked top 10 in receiving yards per game last season. So, Schefty, with the latest on a couple of these guys, let's start where everybody is starting. Justin Jefferson, awaiting that new contract, will set a new bar in the market for receivers. What's the latest there?
Well, when this deal gets done, Hannah, and I think it will eventually get done, it is expected to make Justin Jefferson the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. So it'll be a landmark type of a deal. And I think some of the other wide receivers are waiting to see where the Justin Jefferson deal comes in before they do a deal, because they know the size and scope of this deal that the two sides have been working on throughout the course of the offseason. So far, no deal. But again, as we mentioned with Brandon Ayuk, it's May 22nd, not July or September 22nd. Big difference. As for T. Higgins, also awaiting a new deal, but likely not to come in Cincinnati, at least not a long-term deal. He is yet to sign his franchise tender. The Bengals have OTAs next week. He's not going to sign that franchise tender in time to show up there. And as long as he doesn't sign his franchise tender, he's not allowed to be with the team because he's not under contract. So we could essentially put T. Higgins in a separate basket until, I would say, mid to late August. That's the next time we can expect to hear something from T. Higgins, unless somehow, some way, unexpectedly, the two sides are able to work out a long-term deal that nobody sees coming right now.
Yeah, obviously with Jamar Chase on the horizon, he averaged Higgins almost 16 yards per reception last season, highest in his career. Very understandable that a lot of these receivers are just sitting back and waiting to see what happens with JJ. Thanks, Adam. And much more from OTAs ahead on SportsCenter. Why Commanders coaches are raving about what they're seeing from their new quarterback, Jaden Daniels, in his first practices.
Hannah, back to the NBA. Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals tipping off tonight at 8:30 Eastern. Either Luka or Ant-Man will head to the NBA Finals for the first time, as the Timberwolves slight favorites in Game 1 and in the series. Tony and Mike, much more in tonight's PTI bonus topic.